Britain is being betrayed by our own government in actions steeped in a fanatical, deluded obsession with outmoded, obsolete socialist ideology. There are no working classes anymore. The Labour Party is no longer relevant. Working people means all of us. The government lied and deceived their way into power. They refused to answer questions directly posed to them by journalists before the election, coming out with well-rehearsed phrases which frankly meant very little. Incidentally, did you know that over 80% of those entitled to vote in the last general election did not vote Labour? In our outmoded first-past-the-post system that the political classes, oh yes, they exist, want to keep in order to stop the emergence of true democracy. They fear the people speaking out. Well, the people have had enough. And overwhelmingly, and for the first time in British history, those from the supposed left and from the equally falsely termed right are uniting to say we've had enough of your false democracy. We want our country back. Crime is soaring, yet the courts do little to punish criminals whose human rights are judged to supersede our right to live peacefully. The prisons are full, we are told, yet there seems to be little appetite to build new ones. People who break the law and harm others need to be locked up. Illegal immigration is out of control. Remember the smash the gangs nonsense that Starmer, the country harmer, peddled to us all before the general election? The Labour policy has been an utter disaster for this country as we are invaded by thousands of young men of fighting age who haven't got a proper means of identifying themselves entering this country, whom we reward by giving hotel places to, whilst thousands of British people are either homeless or in substandard accommodation. This represents a scandal and a growing national security crisis. In Epping, brave women protested about their safety, which they felt was at risk from the illegal migrants being held in the Bell Hotel, or as wokists now term these migrants, irregular. They were vilified by extreme wokies and accused of racism. Yet, get this, the sexual assault committed against a 14-year-old girl in Epping was committed by Hadush Kabatu, an illegal migrant staying at the Bell Hotel who had only been in this country for 2 weeks. He was convicted at Chelmsford Magistrates Court of assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman, inciting the girl to engage in sexual activity. There are now over 32,000 illegal migrants being housed in hotels currently. It is costing the taxpayer an absolute fortune. There are countless others who have simply disappeared. Our security services are overwhelmed, and we now have in place the seeds for, frankly, a major sectarian crisis, as communities are flooded with migrants from foreign cultures. Now, idealists will say, we must integrate these people. Have you been to cities like Birmingham recently, or parts of London which are no longer recognisable as British? Communities are forced together in an ideal-driven obsession with integration. Well, what happens? The community divides naturally along cultural grounds, and that's quite understandable. It isn't racist to say so. Do you know, people, net legal migration in this country in the last year is 431,000. No wonder our public services are failing. Our NHS is no longer fit for purpose. Communities are divided. Crime is rampant. And our culture is under threat. Our public finances are being crippled by a feckless chancellor who lied about her credentials to take over the office she now holds. The government is mired in corruption, from the exposure a year ago of MPs from the Prime Minister downwards receiving gifts, more like bribes, ministers being forced to resign, and the latest, the Deputy Prime Minister no less, Angela Rayner. She tried to mislead her way out of trouble when she was caught avoiding her tax liability. Who do they replace her with? David Jammy Lammy, who's infamous for going an entire round of mastermind without answering one question correctly, and appears utterly foolish when interviewed. You know, Starmer the country harmer is the worst and weakest Prime Minister in history. But if anything happens to him, we get Lammy. Dear God, could it get any worse? The King publicly and pathetically knighted the odious London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, who abuses his democratic position by arrogantly failing to properly answer questions. We had to witness our monarch knighting this individual. It was a display that horrified and shocked people right the way across the country, and frankly has eroded my belief and support for the royal family. What happened to the exercise of soft power? For goodness sake, the King could have said no, and no one would have known any different. The government are betraying the British people and the trust they hold with feckless incompetence and irresponsibility, proving daily that they are unfit to govern. They fail to answer questions when challenged by journalists, continuing on their road to ruin. Now, before I'm labelled a right-wing fascist, or as Starmer would say, a right-wing thug, let me say, I am a libertarian, believing in free speech. I am not a member of any political party. Free speech is being eroded by this government. People who speak out may end up in prison. Witness Lucy Connolly. I am not a member, as I say, of any political party. However, I have listened to the policies of reform, and they do speak of defending the rights, the sovereignty, the values, and the culture of the British people, with a commitment to protecting our national security from the illegal migrant invasion. I find it hard not to admire their support for British values. Well, this is Christopher Kerr, and I am not a politician. I am a best-selling author of historical fiction. But I risk my reputation today by speaking out because I want my country back. And right now, it is being betrayed. Thank you so much for watching, as always.